Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. This time, we're diving into a book that's been making waves. It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover.
It's a book that's sparking a lot of important conversations.
Yeah, about relationships and all the complexities that come with them. And actually, it was you guys, our listeners, who requested this deep dive. You wanted to unpack those tricky dynamics that Hoover explores in this book, so here we are.
Let's get right into it.
Yeah, let's jump in. So we meet Lily, our protagonist, at a really vulnerable point in her life. She's just lost her father, and she's seeking solace, kind of a moment of peace on a rooftop.
And that's where she encounters Ryle, right, a neurosurgeon.
Exactly. And their connection right from the start is electric. There's this undeniable spark between them, this witty banter.
But it's also set against this backdrop of grief, right? Lily's grieving her father, and then Ryle confesses to witnessing a young boy's death that very same night.
Wow. Yeah, it adds this whole other layer to their initial encounter. It makes you wonder if Lily's vulnerability, being in that state of grief, makes her more susceptible to Ryle's intensity.
It's definitely a question that lingers as you read on. Like, is this intense connection genuine, or is it something else?
Right. And then they play this game, this naked truth game, which is super revealing.
Oh, yeah. That's when we really start to see their differences.
Ryle just comes right out and says he doesn't want marriage or kids and that he prefers one-night stands. It's kind of a blow, especially when you compare it to Lily's longing for a real, lasting relationship.
You can almost feel Lily's hope kind of deflating as he's saying all of this.
Totally. And what I found really interesting was how uncomfortable she is with casual intimacy, particularly with Ryle. It's like a part of her is already sensing those red flags, you know what I mean?
Yes, that discomfort is key because it speaks to her intuition, which, let's be honest, is often overlooked in these whirlwind romances.
Absolutely. And then, as if things weren't complicated enough, we're introduced to Lily's past through her childhood journals.
Oh, yeah, the journals. And get this, they're addressed to Ellen DeGeneres.
Of all people.
Right.
It's such a quirky detail, but it totally works.
It has this touch of humor and innocence, right? And through these journals, we learn about her first love, Atlas.
Atlas, who, by the way, grew up in some really difficult circumstances, but he's got this incredible vocabulary and these polished manners. It's like he defies all expectations. I don't know about you, listener, but it made me super curious about his story.
Me too. Like, how did he end up with such eloquence and grace despite his background?
Exactly. So fast forward to the present day, and Lily is finally opening her dream floral shop.
It's a big moment for her.
Huge. And guess who her first customer is?
Don't tell me. Ryle.
Ryle. Pretending, of course, not to recognize her from that rooftop encounter. Talk about a plot twist.
It's like fate is playing a game with them.
And to complicate things even further, Atlas reappears.
Oh boy, here we go.
Right. And he's connected to Ryle through his sister, Alyssa.
Wait, so now all three of them are tangled up in this web of relationships.
Exactly. It's getting messy. This whole weaving together of past and present relationships is so fascinating.
It really highlights how our past loves and experiences can just pop up unexpectedly.
And impact our present choices in a big way.
For sure. And Lily is now right in the middle of it all, navigating her feelings for both Ryle and Atlas. We see Ryle's possessive side emerge when he breaks her phone out of jealousy over Atlas. And later, when she seeks refuge on that same rooftop during a party at Ryle's apartment, well, it just mirrors their first meeting.
Oh, wow, you're right. It's like she's subconsciously seeking comfort in a familiar pattern, even if it's, potentially unhealthy.
Exactly. It raises the question, is she drawn to this intensity because it feels familiar, even if it's not good for her?
It's a good question. And despite all these warning signs, their relationship progresses. Ryle showers her with passion and grand gestures, even buying them an apartment.
Classic love bombing, almost like he's trying to sweep her off her feet and distract her from those early red flags.
It's a whirlwind for sure. And then comes that incident where Ryle accidentally hits Lily, causing her to fall and injure herself. This is where the story takes a really dark turn. It's no longer just about conflicting feelings. It's about recognizing the signs of a potentially abusive relationship.
It's a gut-wrenching moment.
And you know what's even more heartbreaking? It's how Lily tries to rationalize his actions. She makes excuses for his behavior, maybe influenced by her own childhood experiences with domestic violence.
It's like she's trying to convince herself that it's not as bad as it seems.
Exactly. It's this really complex mix of emotions that Hoover captures so well. The love, the fear, the guilt, and that desperate hope for change.
It's a powerful portrayal of the emotional roller coaster that can come with an abusive relationship, and it's a reminder that these situations are never black and white.
Absolutely. And as this present-day drama is unfolding, we're taken back to Lily's childhood journals, where we delve deeper into her relationship with Alice.
Their connection is so pure, so supportive. It's a stark contrast to the turmoil of her current relationship.
Despite his own struggles with homelessness and even suicidal thoughts, Atlas radiates kindness, and he credits Lily with saving his life.
It's a beautiful example of how, even in the darkest of times, human connection can be a lifeline.
Right. And there's also this bittersweet element to their story. When Atlas leaves for the military, he makes Lily promise not to wait for him.
He doesn't want to hold her back. It's actually a selfless act of love.
It makes you think about the sacrifices we make for the people we care about. And then in a cruel twist of fate, we learn that Atlas owns the restaurant where Lily and Ryle had dinner.
Oh, no way! Are you serious?
Seriously. All those missed connections, all those what-ifs, suddenly become impossible to ignore.
Wow, that's just...
I know, right? Like the universe is playing a cruel joke on them.
It's brilliant storytelling, though. Bringing their past and present together like that, it forces both Lily and us as readers to confront the choices that shape our lives.
And just as things feel unbearably complicated, Lily's relationship with Ryle reaches a terrifying turning point. But I think we should pause here and pick up this intense story next time.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to stop. It's getting pretty heavy.
Definitely. We'll dive back into the emotional roller coaster of It Ends With Us in our next deep dive. Don't miss it.
So we left off on quite the cliffhanger, with Lily's relationship with Ryle taking a very dark turn.
Yeah, things escalated quickly. It's a stark reminder of how dangerous domestic violence can be, how quickly things can spiral out of control.
Absolutely. And it's a difficult reality that many people face, often in silence. So to pick up where we left off, Ryle, in a fit of rage, shoves Lily down the stairs.
It's brutal. It leads to her being hospitalized and then the discovery of her pregnancy.
It's just a devastating situation, and it really underscores the severity of the abuse. Ryle's actions are inexcusable. They highlight the destructive nature of unresolved trauma and how those deep-seated insecurities can manifest in harmful ways.
It's a tough thing to grapple with because, as readers, we've seen glimpses of Ryle's good qualities, his charm, his intelligence, even his vulnerability at times. But this act of violence shatters that image. It forces us to confront the reality that someone can be capable of both love and immense harm.
It definitely challenges our perceptions of good and bad, and it reminds us that people are complex, and their actions are often driven by a multitude of factors. I think this is one of the things Hoover does so well. She doesn't paint Ryle as a one-dimensional villain. We see his internal struggles, his own past traumas, and while those experiences don't excuse his behavior, they do offer some context.
Right. It adds a layer of nuance to the story. It makes us think about the cyclical nature of abuse, how hurt people often hurt people. But it also emphasizes that accountability is crucial. Ryle's past doesn't absolve him of responsibility for his actions.
Exactly. Understanding those underlying factors is important, but it shouldn't detract from the fact that violence is never acceptable. And thankfully, in this moment of crisis, Atlas steps in, providing Lily with a stark contrast to Ryle's behavior. He becomes this anchor of support, offering her a safe haven when she needs it most.
It's a powerful moment, seeing Atlas step up and provide that unwavering care. It really highlights the difference between healthy and unhealthy relationships.
His presence also serves as a catalyst for Lily. It pushes her to confront the truth of her situation. She's pregnant, she's been abused, and she's now faced with some incredibly difficult choices.
And those choices are further complicated by the fact that she's grappling with her own past experiences with domestic violence. Her childhood was marked by witnessing her father abuse her mother, which makes her current situation even more emotionally charged.
It's like she's caught in this cycle she desperately wants to break free from. And it's a struggle that many survivors face, right? Trying to navigate those deeply ingrained patterns, those fears and doubts.
Absolutely. And one of the turning points for Lily is when she confides in Alyssa, Ryle's sister, about the pregnancy and the abuse.
Alyssa's response is so important, isn't it? She offers unconditional support and love without judgment.
And that unwavering support is exactly what Lily needs in that moment. Alyssa's presence, her genuine concern for Lily and the baby, it shines a light in what feels like a very dark time. It reinforces the importance of having a strong support system, people you can turn to when things get tough.
It's a reminder that we don't have to go through difficult times alone, and that sometimes reaching out for help is the bravest thing we can do.
It takes incredible strength to speak up, to acknowledge the abuse, and to seek support. And Lily's decision to do so is a testament to her resilience and her determination to protect herself and her unborn child.
And ultimately, she makes the incredibly difficult decision to divorce Ryle.
Which is a huge step. But it's a decision born out of love for her daughter. She recognizes that staying in that abusive environment would perpetuate the cycle of violence.
The scene where she confronts Ryle with the question of how he would feel if their daughter experienced similar abuse is so powerful. It's a wake-up call for him, a moment of reckoning, where he's forced to confront the potential consequences of his actions.
It's heartbreaking, but it's also hopeful. It suggests that maybe, just maybe, Ryle can recognize the harm he's caused and choose a different path.
It leaves the reader with this sense of uncertainty, right? Will Ryle actually change? Can he break free from those destructive patterns? And what about Lily? How will she navigate motherhood as a single parent while also dealing with the trauma of the abuse?
So many questions linger. And while we've been focusing a lot on the present-day drama of Lily's relationship with Ryle, let's not forget about the parallel storyline unfolding through her childhood journals.
Oh yeah, the journals. We're getting a deeper glimpse into her connection with Atlas.
And it's a beautiful, albeit complicated, connection. Despite the hardships Atlas faces, he remains incredibly kind and supportive. He sees the good in Lily, even when she doubts herself.
And their bond really underscores the idea that even in the darkest of times, human connection can be a source of light and hope.
Their relationship is a stark contrast to the one Lily has with Ryle. And it makes you wonder, listener, if you've ever had a relationship, romantic or otherwise, that profoundly impacted who you are today, even if it wasn't meant to last forever.
Sometimes the most meaningful relationships are the ones that teach us about ourselves, about resilience, about the different forms love can take.
And that's what makes the epilogue so powerful. Years later, after everything that's happened, Lily has a chance encounter with Atlas. They acknowledge the impact they had on each other's lives, even though their paths diverged.
It's bittersweet, but there's a sense of peace and closure. It highlights the idea that some connections leave a lasting mark on us, shaping who we become, even if they don't fit neatly into our preconceived notions of romance.
And despite all the darkness and trauma explored in It Ends With Us, I think there's this underlying message of hope and resilience.
Absolutely. Lily's journey is ultimately one of empowerment. She breaks free from the cycle of abuse, chooses to prioritize her daughter's well-being, and finds a sense of closure with her past.
It's a testament to the strength of the human spirit, our capacity for healing and growth, even after experiencing profound pain. But before we get too deep into analyzing the ending, let's pause here and pick up with our final thoughts in the last part of this deep dive.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground, haven't we? It's been quite a journey dissecting It Ends With Us.
It really has. There's so much packed into this book, so many layers to unpack.
From love and loss to the complexities of relationships and, of course, the difficult topic of domestic violence.
You know, what really struck me is how Colleen Hoover doesn't shy away from the messiness of it all.
Right, like she presents these flawed characters, their struggles, their bad decisions, their moments of growth, all in a way that feels incredibly raw and real.
And relatable, which I think is key. It makes the story and these characters resonate on a deeper level.
It's not all sunshine and roses. It's messy, it's complicated, and that's what makes it so compelling.
Exactly. And it forces us to confront those uncomfortable truths about ourselves, about the relationships we've been in, and about the world we live in.
Like it challenges those romanticized notions of love that we often see in books and movies. You know, the idea that we should fight for someone at all costs, no matter what.
Which can be really dangerous, especially in situations when there's abuse.
Absolutely. It Ends With Us really throws those narratives out the window. It reminds us that sometimes the most loving act is to prioritize our own well-being, to create a safe space for ourselves.
And to recognize that walking away from a toxic situation, no matter how much love we might feel, can be the bravest and the most loving thing we can do.
Couldn't agree more. It's not about weakness, it's about strength.
Exactly. And, you know, it's not just about romantic relationships either.
That's true. It applies to all kinds of relationships. Friendships, family relationships. If it's toxic, sometimes the healthiest thing is to create distance.
And, you know, I think it's important to acknowledge that healing from trauma takes time.
Oh, absolutely. Whether it's personal trauma or witnessing something traumatic like Lily did with your parents, it can have a lasting impact.
It can shape how we view the world, how we interact with others. And healing from those wounds is a journey.
It's not a quick fix, it's a process, one that requires patience, support, and often professional help.
And sometimes, even when we think we've moved on, those past experiences can resurface in unexpected ways.
Triggering those old feelings and patterns of behavior, it's a reminder that healing is not linear. There will be setbacks, but that doesn't mean we're not making progress.
Exactly. And that brings us back to Lily and Ryle.
Yeah.
The book doesn't give us all the answers, but it does offer a glimmer of hope.
Right. We see Lily finding her voice, making those tough choices, and ultimately creating a better future for herself and her daughter. And while Ryle's path is left somewhat open-ended,
There's a suggestion that change is possible, even for those who have caused harm.
which is a powerful message, that people can change, but it has to come from within.
No one can force someone to change. They have to want it. So as we wrap up this deep dive into It Ends With Us, we're curious to hear your thoughts, listener. What resonated with you the most? Was it Lily's journey of self-discovery and empowerment, or the exploration of how trauma can shape our perceptions of love?
What are your takeaways from this emotional roller coaster of a story?
And how has this deep dive, hopefully, prompted you to think about healthy relationships, about the importance of recognizing red flags, and about the strength it takes to break free from harmful patterns?
We hope this conversation has inspired you to reflect on your own experiences and to continue these important conversations with the people in your life.
Because talking about these issues, challenging those societal norms that perpetuate harmful behaviors, is crucial.
We all have a role to play in creating a world where love doesn't have to coexist with violence.
Thanks for joining us on this journey. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the conversation going.